So what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. Now, I've been wanting to do this video for a while because I could never justify this SUV on this side here. And today I want to kind of figure out what are the differences, because looking at the front end of these SUVs, can anyone tell me a difference? Can anyone tell me? Because I can't really right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at them. In the past, I've actually owned 3 Grand Cherokees, 2 of which were limited. One was a 2014, one was a 2015, and I had a 2016 Grand Cherokee High Altitude. Now, I've since traded them in, and I now have a Ram truck. I've actually had 2 Ram trucks since then too. I buy a lot of cars, unfortunately, and 2 of which were actually company used too. But I really have a soft spot in my heart for Grand Cherokee. Now, I will say I am looking forward to them redesigning these, because I am kind of tired of seeing this design. They keep on like putting lipstick on a pig, in my opinion, and I think that's kind of what this Limited X is. And I really want to kind of get the differences out to see which one is worth it, in my opinion. Now, there's one last thing I want to say before we get started. I want to kind of inspire you guys. When I first started my channel, I did a video on a high altitude and altitude. That was the very first video I started playing around with editing with, and I was just kind of like getting a feel for getting footage, and then like, you know, editing it and then kind of posting it. Now, I never intended to post that video. I didn't like, you know, the footage I got. You know, I didn't get enough like footage, one, and number 2, I didn't really like have keys for the cars. And I remember telling my wife, like, I just want to learn how to edit the videos, and then I'm probably just going to delete this. And she said, well, why don't you just post it since you already edited it? And I kind of thought about it. I was like, you know what, the reason why I don't want to edit it is because I don't think it's that good. I don't think people will like it. Well, I just looked at my analytics probably like a week ago, and it's actually my top watched video. No expectation of posting that video, and I just think that I was afraid to fail. If you're ever afraid to fail, or you're afraid that something may not work out, I would just tell you, don't worry about that. Try it and see what happens. But let's go ahead and get started. So taking a look at the front, there's not much difference. Now, I decided to let the high altitude flex a little bit on the Limited X, so I did put it in its highest setting for the off-road package. So this is off-road number 2, and as you see, it is definitely a lot higher compared to the standard Limited X, which does not have air suspension. So we'll drive them today, and I'll show you guys the differences there. But for the most part, you can actually lower this down to like it's called an exit setting, and it's just easier to get out of. But this is the highest level you can lift it to if you're going off-road. And I believe you can drive at 40 miles an hour at this height too. And you can see even inside, you do have an airbag on all 4 corners. Love how they give you some aluminum styling on the suspension also. When you look at both of these SUVs, you cannot really tell that there's a difference. The only difference that you can really see is the fact that they have different style wheels. The Limited X does have a performance hood, and it has black mirror caps, which I'll show you in a second. This is the front hood of the Limited X, which is going to be the performance hood, which is actually functional. And then this is a hood that you would get on the high altitude. That's like the biggest difference up front, and you get these black mirror caps that you do not get on the high altitude. So let's go ahead and drive the high altitude, and we'll get an idea on how this air suspension rides. Right now I'm in off-road 2 on the suspension, and I believe you can go 45 miles an hour in this height right now. But normally, once you go over 45, it'll normally drop down to the normal ride height. And I'm a huge fan of the suspension system, because I do live up north, and when we do have those days where we get a lot of snow, this does come in really handy. And even in this ride height, this truck is so comfortable. I find that I like the Quadra-Lift, I think that's what it's called, the suspension system on this high altitude, which is standard. I find this one to ride the best out of the standard suspension that you can get on the Grand Cherokee. And if you are looking at the Limited X in the high altitude, you cannot get this suspension on the Limited X. You have to go to a Overland, or you have to go to a Summit also. I believe it may be available on a Limited, just a standard Limited, not the Limited X, but I'll let you guys know. But I'm going up, actually at about 40 miles an hour, it started to drop down again. So now that it's lowering down, it actually has like an icon in here that shows you. But as I mentioned, this actually rides really well with the air suspension. I really really love the way it handles. I find that normally with air suspension, when you hit hard bumps, it does kind of feel a little bit more harsher. But for the most part, riding on this suspension is really comfortable. So let's take a quick look at the window sticker. As I mentioned, this is a 2019 Grand Cherokee High Altitude 4x4. Base price is $48,995, and if you're not familiar, this is actually based off of a Overland. So the Overland is actually above the Limited, and the Laredo is the base level Grand Cherokee that you can buy. So with the standard equipment, this is what you're going to see as standard for some of the powertrain and for the interior. For optional equipment, high altitude, $24.95, and you can see this is all the things that are going to come with it. We'd like to point out it does have Napa leather. It does come with the aluminum pedals too, which is a good option to have too. Heavy duty engine cooling, a lot of good things inside of here too. This truck was equipped with the rear seat dual entertainment system for the rear occupants. 19 speaker sound system, which I actually really like. It's actually a really good sounding system. And your destination comes in at $14.95 for a total price of $56,175. As far as fuel economy goes, 25 is what you can expect on the highway, with 18 averaged out there, and a combine of 21. So this does get really good fuel economy for an SUV. Now, I'm hitting the gas right now so you can hear the truck accelerating. This V6 has a lot of performance, and when I bought my high altitude, I was looking at the V8 and the V6. But for me at the time, I really felt like the V8 was kind of like a waste for me, because I didn't plan on towing anything with the SUV, and I really felt like the performance was very similar, especially for the driving I was going to be doing. So I decided to go with the V6. Now, if you do plan on towing something, I strongly recommend you get the V8. You can get a V8 inside of the Limited X and inside the high altitude based off of the Jeep website. And you do get a higher axle ratio, which is going to be better for towing, and you're going to get a higher gross vehicle weight rating, which adds an additional 300 pounds, so you can actually have a little bit more payload inside the SUV. And I do find that the V8 is more like desirable. Like if you like the sound, if you like that girthiness of that engine, I did like the power. It's definitely a difference, but I feel like for me, I'm not hot riding. I'm not really like looking to get the speed. I was really looking for fuel economy because I was driving more. So that's what kind of won me over. Now you can get the activation for the cylinders with that V8, so that would have been a plus. But for me, I was really trying to get overall performance. And again, this thing has a lot of power. Like, I'm gonna hit it again. I mean, I'm doing 60 miles an hour, 70, 80. I mean, there's just so much performance. A lot of performance. I'm on a windy road too, and just the suspension, the way it handles and like really like throws us around, like it just has a lot of performance, a lot of good characteristics to have this SUV with the V6 and with this air suspension. Now, sitting out back, as you saw in the options list, you do get these really attractive Blu-ray DVD players, and you have your controls right here on the side. So you have a USB, and then you have your AV options here. Now, if you want to add a disc in, the way you would do it is from inside of here. And as you can see, this does make your center console kind of small, and they do provide a remote control too. All right, here's a performance test. And then here's hard braking. A lot of the things that are optional on the Limited X are actually standard here. Like, for example, if you want the dynamic radar cruise control or the lane keep or even the blind spot monitoring, all those things do come standard on this high altitude. The only thing that you can opt for is a 19-inch premium sound system, the DVD player, and the V8 engine. Those are the biggest options that you can add. The Grand Cherokee does get really good fuel economy for it being an SUV, and what I like about it is this is a really really well composed sport utility. I was looking for the word control. It feels heavy, and that's what I like about the high altitude. I think with the overall feel of this SUV with the suspension, I think that helps kind of contribute to that driving characteristic. It feels heavy. And here I was looking for the word solid, but it gets really good fuel economy. I would see it probably about 22 to 23 miles per gallon with 60% highway, 40% city. Now, if I stayed on the highway, I could easily get 24, maybe into 25 if I kept around 65, 70 miles an hour. And, you know, just like in town, like it's just easy to use, very easy to see out of. Now, the rear is kind of hard if you're looking to back up because that rear window is kind of small and you have a really large pillar in the rear that makes it kind of hard to see out of. But overall, still a good SUV, still easy to drive, still fun to drive actually too, surprisingly. But the only thing I hate about this is it's so outdated. Like this styling, this interior, like it's just, if you've driven them before, if you had one, it's just, they've changed it over time, but it's time for a redesign. Like, come on, Jeep, like let's get this thing redesigned soon. Hopefully for 2020 or 2021, we should be able to see a full redesign. Now, up front, you can open this screen. I'm gonna push it one time, and it does come back automatically, and then it will stop. And then you can push it again, and it'll actually reach back into the rear seating area too to give you a panoramic view of the sky there. Really nice. And as you see on the window sticker too, you saw that you did have the black wood trim that actually comes back to the back. This nice piano black trim around the door handle. And when you do opt for the Harman Kardon, they do give you the silver trim around the speaker, which really does make it look more upscale. You can see a little bit better up front there too. Here's a better look at those speaker surrounds there. Now, as you saw in the window sticker too, you do have Napa leather, and in the rear you do have reclining rear seats that will actually fold flat too. And as you saw, it's very easy to put the seat down too. And they do give you a cover for your rear cargo area also. Putting the seat back up is really easy. You can do it with one hand. And they do give you an armrest with cup holders too. Moving out front, one benefit to the high altitude is you do have a power mirror, so you can put these mirrors in automatically. So if you're parking off street, that is a nice feature to have. You don't have to go out there and do it manually. And of course, you will have bi-xenon headlights too, which is standard on this SUV too. And it's a really good option. The headlights on this SUV is really, really good. Now you will have a power adjustable steering column too. So we'll go, of course, up and down. It is telescoping. So it's really easy to set this however you want to. And they do give you an infotainment system too. I'm not gonna take too much time in this, but there's just so many ways that you can set this up. And you can look at a few options like your battery, tire pressure, your temperatures for your oil, transmission, and then your pressure for your oil, and then your life for your oil until you need the next oil change. And again, everything's really easy to read. Just very well laid out. It's just it just has that aged effect on this interior. Like, I'm just not impressed anymore. I love how they do give you this leather wrapped dash. Really does make this feel upscale. And I like the fact that they give you like a black roof. Like, everything in here is black. If you're gonna get a black interior, they give it to you all black, I'll tell you. And just here in the middle, you see you have a really clear screen. Backup camera is very clear and it's easy to use there. And one thing I like about this system too is you can actually drag things down. So if you would like to move things around, you can do that. So if you would like to have your cooled seats down here without having to go through your controls to find it, very easy to do. And the cooled seats actually work pretty good too. Good thing to note out. Now, with this SUV, you do have radar cruise control, so it will actually hold the speed of the person in front of you, and I believe it will stop the vehicle also. You do have blind spot monitoring on the mirrors also. And again, there's so many different driving features that this truck has, like lane keep assist, parking sensors front and rear. You can turn off this automatic stop start system. I'm not a fan of it yet. They do have a sport mode button here, but I do notice that they did not give you any paddle shifters. That's actually kind of surprising in my opinion. All right guys, so we're gonna drive this Limited X. This is actually my first time getting inside of a Limited X. Now, you do have a manually adjusted steering wheel. Not a big deal, I guess, but to me, I guess it is a big deal. It's a big deal to me. I definitely can see a lot of things missing, and the reason why is because this is based off of Limited, so you don't have power mirrors on the outside. You don't have a power adjustable steering column. But this truck was optioned with the dynamic radar cruise control. I'll show you guys the window sticker for the SUV just so you can see the options that it has, because there are a few things on this that are optional. For example, like the sunroof's optional. The radar cruise control is optional. And like I said, I'll show that to you in a second. But I'm driving on the same road, and I don't really feel a huge difference in the suspension on how it rides. They're actually both really comfortable. I still prefer the air suspension because I definitely do know that there's a little bit more like noise, I feel as though, from the suspension in this one. Yeah, there's definitely a little bit more noise, you know, inside the cabin from the suspension. That's what I'm hearing. But it's not bad. I really do like that air suspension though. Now, most people would argue and say 5 years from now, 6 years from now, you could have problems with it, or even sooner than that. But I don't really keep my car long enough for that to really bother me, so that would be an issue for me. But overall, man, it's the same SUV. I'm not going to take too much time driving because they're really the same. If this had the V8, it'd be a little bit more worth it. So this is going to be the Limited X. It's a 2019 model. Now, as you see, the base price is a lot lower than that high altitude at $41,195, and this is based off of a Limited. And this is going to be a very short listing for your standard equipment again. Quadra-Track is actually standard. I did not know that. Now, as far as optional equipment goes, this is going to give you the 20-inch wheels. Now, this is a different design. It's actually a new design wheel that they introduced for the Limited X. And you're going to have those gloss black exterior accents, gloss black roof rails, and then they do give you some liquid titanium accents too. Pretty much everything you see is kind of the same as the high altitude. You have the premium LED fog lights. This one does include the steering wheel mounted shifters, as I said. The high altitude did not have that. Bi-xenon headlights are going to be standard with this package, and it's going to give you the black headlight bezels and the black lens tail lamps. Daytime running lights are going to be LED. You get the badging for the Limited X. So the two options that you see there, you see the Jeep Advanced Active Safety Group, $14.95, and then dual pane panoramic sunroof is $20.95. Those two are standard on the high altitude. And you get the destination at $14.95, which is the same, with a grand total price of $51,180. Now, if you took away some of the options that you saw on that high altitude, like the DVD player, the Harman Kardon, the price would almost be a little bit closer, because those two options are not available for the Limited X. You can get a premium sound system, which this one does not have, but it's only 9 speaker compared to 19 with the Harman Kardon. And even as I mentioned, with the, just with the overall design, like the wood trim in here is not bad, and you have that titanium accents on the interior, but you don't get the grille surround like you saw in the high altitude. And I'm telling you, it looks really good. And just looking at this interior, the only differences is just the seat design here, and that's really all I can see that's really different. Let's move up front so you guys can see some of the features that this has, and what are some things that are missing from this one, from the high altitude. Up front, there are some similarities in the interior. Now, I do notice that you lose a button here, which means you have to adjust your outside mirrors manually. This steering wheel is manually adjustable too, so you do not have a power steering wheel like you did in the high altitude. Now, you do gain having the paddle shifters. Is that something that's important to you? Like, sometimes I like to shift my own car. Like, if I'm coming up to a stoplight and I'm really far away, sometimes I'll just downshift because I don't have to use the brake. So it helps to increase the life of my brake pads. Now, if you would like the lane keep assist and the adaptive cruise control, all these things are in an optional package, which is $14.95, but they do come standard on a high altitude. Now, inside of here, I noticed that you only have heated seats and a heated steering wheel, whereas in the high altitude, you do get cooled seats. So based off of those things, and you do not get the automatic air suspension, I find that the high altitude is a little bit better priced. So if you're in the market for a Limited X, I would tell you to skip the sunroof. I would tell you to skip the Jeep Advanced Safety Group also, because then you can have this well into the mid 40s. Now, after seeing and driving these two SUVs, I would say I would probably lean more towards the high altitude, and here's why. I really like the fact that you have cooled seats. I like the fact that you have the air suspension, and most of the features on this SUV are standard. So if you want to build one of these, you can build it base and still get a load of features like the power steering wheel and the power folding mirrors. There's just so many things that come standard that do not even come available on the Limited X. And for the price point, if you're going to spend 50 grand, what's another $4,000 or $5,000? Or if you think about it, what's another couple of $1,000 if you forego the Blu-ray player and a few other things on this, like the Harman Kardon speaker system? Now, if you are after price, I would strongly recommend the Limited X, and if you don't care about the sunroof, get it without the sunroof and the safety features, and you can probably get one closer after discounts and rebates. You probably can get a Limited X closer to $40,000, if not below. But on that note, I hope this video was helpful. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting my channel, and I'm hoping to do more videos like this. But before we leave today, we have to let the high altitude flex its muscles. So see you in the next video, and watch this.